What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. A common remark I get after people watch my videos goes something along the lines of, "Boy, you don't play competitive, do you?" And no, I actually try and avoid it like the plague. But there's no reason to look down on people that play Pokemon outside of the competitive scene. In fact, I would say that most Pokemon fans just play the games as they were meant to and don't worry about battling online. So, in that vein, I thought it might be nice to talk about certain useful in-game features that are practically useless in the competitive field. Specifically in this case, abilities. So, for everyone obsessed with only competitive, strap in, you might learn something. The first ability to come to mind with this was Suction Cups. This ability blocks the Pokemon from being forcibly switched out with the likes of Roar or Dragon Tail. That sounds pretty alright for battling, actually. It means that someone can't ruin your setup strategy. But when you take a look at the only Pokemon that can get Suction Cups, the idea kinda goes out the window. Since if you're going to compete with a Malamar, you're going to use Contrary. And nobody's exactly shaking in their boots from a Cradily. But in the games, Suction Cups has another purpose. If the Pokemon at the front of your party has Suction Cups while fishing, you're pretty well guaranteed to catch a Pokemon. This comes in handy when you're dredging the depths to try and get all of the Pokemon in a given body of water. But I personally used this ability in chain fishing. When you fish in one spot over and over again, it becomes more likely to find a shiny. But if the chain is broken, that goes away. So making sure that your chain will continue on with Suction Cups means that you can keep going forever until you get those different colored sparkles. The same is true for the ability Sticky Hold, which is also not seen much since the Pokemon that get Sticky Hold have other more desirable abilities to battle with, such as Storm Drain, Liquid Ooze, or Hydration. Except for maybe Stench, which I wanted to talk about for a minute, since Stench is an ability that actually started as only having out-of-battle effects. Now in battle, Stench provides a chance for any attack to cause the target to flinch. That's pretty good in theory, but looking at the pool that actually has access to Stench, you can see that none of these are Pokemon that are particularly fast. You start at 84 speed, and it only goes down from there. Flinching a Pokemon is predicated on the idea that you actually outspeed the target, so Stench isn't even really useful except for Trick Room enthusiasts. However, I recently found out that its original purpose was that if the Pokemon in the front of your party has Stench, the likelihood that wild Pokemon will appear actually decreases. This makes sense. If you smell terrible, people aren't going to want to come around. But you could use this ability instead of spending your money on repels, and instead buy potions or other useful items, which might just make this the best aspect of the Stench ability. This effect also works with White Smoke and Quick Feet? Really? I get the other two, but what makes Quick Feet cause Pokemon to avoid them? Does the running just make too much noise? Anyway, these abilities are essentially the opposite of the ability Illuminate, which raises the likelihood to encounter wild Pokemon. But that's the only thing that ability does. Another ability that is fairly obvious for this idea is Run Away. This ability has no effects in competitive since you can't run away from trainer battles. You either win or you die. So nobody's going to want to use this in a tournament. However, Run Away can be a lifesaver in the game. Literally. The run button, despite being there, doesn't always work. Sometimes when you try and escape, you instead get hit with 2 or 3 attacks before you can even leave. And the biggest insult is that when you finally escape the onslaught, it has the gall to say, "Got away safely." Well, the yellow health bar on my Pokemon begs to differ. So Run Away just cuts out all that irritating part of traversing the Pokemon wilds, and ensures that you can actually flee from any battle you choose, if your Pokemon are on their last legs through a massive cave. One that's a little different than these others is the ability Shed Skin. This ability gives the Pokemon a 1 in 3 chance to get rid of a status condition, letting you ease up on the healing items, and also make it harder for your foes to consistently use statuses as a strategy. Now you might say that's a pretty alright setup for competitive, and that's true, but Shed Skin is here pretty much exclusively because of its distribution. Only 5 out of the 16 Pokemon that can have Shed Skin have a different ability, outside of the harder to get hidden abilities anyway. So for battle, most people are going to want to go with something stronger like a Moxie or an Intimidate. As for the rest of the Shed Skin Pokemon, well, nobody's really going to be using them much anyway. It's mostly Cocoon Pokemon. So, since you'd not ever really take these kind of Pokemon into a wireless battle between players, the only real place for them to even use their ability is in the game. And having a Pokemon on your team, even one that you're just trying to evolve, be able to shed their status conditions is incredibly useful. The same mostly holds true for Shield Dust as well, since that ability is only on early game bug-type Pokemon, where very few of them would ever actually be brought into a competitive match. But Shield Dust is likewise helpful, since it negates any extra effects from damaging moves. So, Crunch can't lower your defense. Nuzzle doesn't paralyze because it does that tiny bit of damage. Shield Dust really came in handy when I was raising my level 100 Caterpie. Yes, that's a real thing that I did. It was in Kalos, so my rival would always start with a Meowstic to use Fake Out. Well, while they just did a minuscule amount of damage, I remained unflinched and could get in a super effective Bug Bite. So, Shield Dust is a pretty great ability in the games, but again, it's really only on Pokemon that if you brought it to a competitive fight, you'd get laughed out of the room. And finally, there's the ability Magma Armor. This ability prevents the target from being frozen, which kind of already has limited relevance since there's no way to guarantee freezing a target. But when you look at the Pokemon that can get Magma Armor, they are, all predictably, Fire-type Pokemon, meaning that you're not really going to try and use Ice moves against them anyway. However, that's not the end for Magma Armor, because it also has the out-of-battle effects of reducing the steps that it takes to hatch Pokemon eggs. If a Magma Armor Pokemon is in the party, it will take half as long for your eggs to hatch, which is a pretty great thing, especially for chronic breeders, looking for specific natures or even shinies. Of course, this effect is also shared by the more common ability Flame Body as well, but that one at least has a chance to burn in battle, so it's not quite as written off as Magma Armor. But maybe now if you find a Pokemon with this ability, you'll be able to put it to good use. So, those are some Pokemon abilities that may not be good for competitive, but can help a lot in the main story of a Pokemon game. I felt that shining a light on this often overlooked aspect of the franchise was long overdue, especially since it's the part that I deal with most regularly. Which so-called useless abilities do you find useful? Let me know down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And we'll see you around next time!